Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve and this is Wilmer Woodworks. I've been wanting to make an American flag for a long time, and with it being Memorial Day, it felt like the perfect opportunity. So I went over to Lowe's the other day and I looked at some of the wood offerings that they had. They had whiteboard, they had some pine boards, but I ended up actually picking up some wall paneling. So it's pine wall paneling, it's tongue and groove, but it worked perfectly for what I needed because I just cut the tongue and grooves off and got my little 1-inch strips out. Now, I learned a lot about the American flag. I thought I knew a lot about the American flag before, but I learned a lot. So there is specific, of course, regulations on the size of the flag. You can make the flag any size you want as long as everything is proportional correctly. So I knew that I wanted the union, the blue part of my flag, to be 10 by 7 inches. So that made my stars 3/4 of an inch, and that made my stripes 1 inch. And the length of these is 25 inches. The length of the small stripes are 15 inches. So that gives us a total of little over 13 inches by 25 inches. What was also nice was I was able to incorporate my laser engraver in this project. I was able to cut out all of the stars, and using that cutout, was able to space all the stars correctly and use that cutout as a jig to align all my stars correctly on the union. So that made everything look flush and look perfect, and it saved me a lot of time and math. So that being said, Memorial Day is a day to remember those men and women who gave their ultimate sacrifice so that we can enjoy the life that we live today. So this build really brings a lot of meaning to me, and it's more than just woodwork. And I do appreciate everybody who is in the armed forces that allows me to continue to enjoy the freedoms that I do enjoy. With that being said, let's get to some woodworking and I'll show you how I made this awesome flag. The first thing I had to do was attach this 3M double-sided sheet to my 1/8 inch piece of plywood that I'm going to use for my stars. Once I did that, I brought it over to my machine and just loaded up the file that I had created earlier with my stars perfectly spaced out. So once this cuts all of these stars out, I can actually use this cutout as my template to align everything correctly. Like I said, I did find this paneling at Lowe's. It was fairly cheap, so it did have a lot of knots, so I was just going to cut all of the bad pieces out that I didn't need and keep everything that had the nice grain pattern. And so begins many, 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 many cuts. So this paneling has some grooves in it that I just need to remove, so I'm going to cut each end, the tongue and the groove, off, and then cut my 1-inch strips from that. So I should get 3 pieces per board. I think eventually I may have to build an outfeed table to catch everything from the saw instead of letting it drop to the floor. After everything was trimmed up, I decided to get my butane torch and give it a nice even texture. The more you do this, the better you'll get in figuring out how close to the board to be and how long to stay. So I did have to glue up a couple of pieces for the union, which is the blue part that's behind the stars. Using some pipe clamps and some tight bond 3, they had made short work of that project. So now all I have to do is cut all these strips down to 1 inch. Now that everything is cut down to 1 inch, I need to cut my long stripes, and they are 25 inches long. Now that the long strips are cut, I can actually put a stop here. My table wasn't long enough for the 25-inch stop, but with the 15-inch I can make quick work of these stripes. After the union glue up has cured, I can just sand that down to get that nice flush feel. And I am sanding both sides. Now just adding a little bit of that texture with the flame. And this final cut is cut down to 10 by 7. And now I'm using a 45-degree chamfer bit on my router to cut a nice relief in each of the stripes along with the union. You just have to take your time. A lot of cuts, but they're very straightforward cuts. And I did do 4 additional pieces to support the back at this time. So I'm curious, has anybody else tried to make some flags? I have seen some where they're waving. That might be the next flag I may try to make, or I've already had some requests for flags with the challenge coins or badges. So we'll see what comes up next. And if you like the content, please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment below. Any of those interactions usually do increase the odds of a video being pushed out to the masses, and that would be great for the channel. So these are those support pieces that I cut additionally. I'm just making sure I can get 1 screw in each slat, or each stripe, and just 1 or 2 in each of the union, 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. Here I'm just pre-drilling for the screws, and then I used a larger bit to countersink for the head of the screw. And now for the stain. I am using stain and not paint. It kind of looks like paint, but this is a full coat stain, and I believe the red was a semi-transparent. Now to align all of these stars. So I took the backer that the stars were actually laser cut out of, and just used some painter's tape to center that on the union, and then took the painstaking task of taking the 3M off of the back of the star and placing it in the jig. If you have some decent music on your phone and just gonna zone out this. This doesn't take that long. And like I said, I will make this file available for download on my website, so be sure to check out that link once it's available. And the reveal. Nice contrast of the white on the blue. Now all I have to do is flip the flag over to attach the support pieces. And I did clamp this just to make sure that there weren't huge gaps between the stripes. And I used 1-inch screws on this. I believe they were 1-inch number 10 Phillips head screws. And again, just a little bit of type on 3 to make sure everything glues up correctly. And now for a couple additional pieces, just so you can attach this or hang this on the wall. I had to put 2 cleats as standoffs for the sawtooth hangers. And here I'm just pre-drilling, and I believe these are 1 1/4-inch screws that I'm using here. And then the supplied screws that came with the sawtooth hangers. And finally, some clear coat. And this is just a standard lacquer, and I applied 3 coats. Well, thanks for watching. I think this project turned out perfectly. It has a lot of meaning for me, and it was a very interesting build. I learned some new techniques and learned some new things about flags. So, like I said, I really do appreciate all the service men and women out there, and I hope you enjoyed watching me make this awesome flag. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'd really like to hear from you. Have you made a flag? Do you plan on making one of these flags? I will put the template out there for the stars for the Union, so you can download that from my website. I hope you like the build. I hope you subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. Till next time, my name is Steve. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for hanging out.